Have you ever thought that a simple act of pulling on the clothes that someone could make the difference between safety and danger? Looks like something out of the common, almost trivial, but in everyday life of many people, it is a movement, so you can turn it into a lesson in the courage and instinct for self-protection. What if I told you that, in the morning, a seemingly normal woman came out of the house for a walk on the quiet, not knowing what fate will bring you a surprise that would change his perception of fairness and courage? She was lively, with the hook of all time, in no hurry, enjoying the fresh air and the feeling of freedom. His footsteps were light, and his dog, a faithful companion, walked along at his side, obedient and calm. Nothing is stated that on that day, one that started so common, you were about to turn into a story of a true hero. But sometimes, what appears to be a routine, it is the perfect setting for an unexpected event that causes us to question everything they believe in, security and animal instinct. Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out now. You will be surprised. The connection between humans and dogs goes far beyond a simple friendship. They seem to have a sixth sense and a heightened awareness that often goes unnoticed in our eyes. And in this story, in this sense, it was essential to avoid a catastrophe. Have you ever gone through something like this? In a situation in which the animal then suddenly, he acted in a different way, as if he knew something that you didn't notice? So what happened this morning is going to leave you jaw-dropped. An attitude is a simple, one pull quick. It may have saved a life. And it all started with a routine. All of a sudden, it turned into a scene out of a thriller, where the loyalty of a dog he's shown more strongly than ever before. You want to know how this all came to be? Then, continue on to me, because the story is just getting started. If you identify within this moment, or you have already gone through something like that, you leave in the comments what you played, or if you have already lived through some of the experience that reinforce the importance of being aware of the details of daily life. Your participation is what makes this channel grow, and to reach more people with this type of content, and helping to spread a message of caution, courage, and compassion. In addition to this, if you like that style of storytelling, and want to keep up with stories that demonstrate the power of small actions, do not stop and enjoy the video and subscribe to the channel, so you can stay up to date with everything that's coming to strengthen this community that believes in the power of good and the connection between humans and their four-legged friends. Every comment, every like makes a big difference, so that we can continue bringing you stories that are real, thrilling, and inspiring, reminding us of how life can change in an attitude that simple. Then, continue on to me, because this story has so much more to give, and together we can learn to value every moment and every act of love that changes the world around us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because a lot of times it's the transformation that we seek to get exactly those small decisions that seem insignificant at first glance, but which in fact, creating a chain of impact that reverberates throughout the journey. It is as if each were a seed, and that's what we sow today determine what we will reap a harvest tomorrow. And that sense of responsibility, that of leadership, it's something that very few really understand it at its core. This is not a collection of heavy or a pressure that is not necessary, but it is a wake up to the power we have to shape our own story, to write a script based on the values that actually matter to you. The truth is hidden behind a lot of stories of success and overcoming it. Precisely, that they don't happen by accident, is not the result of fate or luck, but a conscious decision to keep on going, even when everything seems to be conspiring against you. And a lot of the time, this decision was born of a decision to be silent, a time to reflect on the person you choose, even if unconsciously, not to surrender to the hardship, but to look for a way of seeing possibilities where others see obstacles. That's what the power of the mind, which acts as a filter that transforms the difficulties in learning and the challenges at the time. To think differently, to believe that it is possible to change the reality itself, that requires courage. And it is this courage, is often fueled by a motivation, is the inner power that comes from realizing that what really matters is not what other people think about it, but what we feel and believe about ourselves. This inner transformation is, what is the difference between those who only dream of the ones who really make it happen? It's this change of mind that your decisions will earn a new shade, more in line with what is most real in our lives. And as you explore behind the scenes of this journey, we have realized that all of what seems to be a magic in the lives of others successful, it has much deeper roots than the apparent brightness. These were years of perseverance. The choices are difficult, and in moments of doubt, they were confronted with a faith in their own abilities. These findings are often hidden under a layer of perfection to the world, like in the show, but that is only achievable when there is a genuine learning from each block, in turn failures into lessons and growth. When you understand this, you begin to realize that real change comes not from the built-in formulas or jump magical, but in an attitude of continuous learning and improvement. It is a journey of self-discovery, of finding out what really drives us, what makes us up every day with hope. In the process, it's the small actions every day will earn you a heavy burden, for it is they that make this a long-lasting impact. For each decision, each act of bravery, he is positive all of this together in a way that a lot of times we can't even imagine it at the time, but in the end, it reveals a story of transformation, a genuine and real. And it is precisely at this point in the conversation, if it connects with you, you live in your day-to-day. Because, regardless of the starting point, each of us has within us the potential to change, to reinvent itself, to rewrite our own story. And it is this ability to change is always within reach. You just have to open your eyes to all the little opportunities that are all around us, to learn the value of each step, with each step forward, even if silent, and recognize the power that lies in the decision to move forward with hope and courage. I know that this discussion could open up even more space. So the questions and the findings, and it was in this atmosphere of curiosity, I want to make one final point. Many of the times, and the thing that hinders our progress on how we interpret our own stories to tell. And then, when you change your internal narrative by rewriting the chapters, which seemed to be more difficult, and we made room for a new perspective, the more you take, the more real, and more in tune with who you really are. He writes in, I'm on this journey too. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation begins in exactly the way that we perceive our own history. Many of the times, we carry out a narrative, built in, which has been built up over the course of the year, based on the experiences, opinions of others, or even your own insecurities. In these stories, and many times, they serve as a kind of roadmap of the unseen, that it directs our actions, our choices, and most importantly, our self-esteem. When we are able to identify these patterns, and more than that, ask them to give a giant stride toward freedom, emotional and authentic. It is at this point that is the magic of changes start to happen, from the inside to the outside, rather than as an attempt at a surface to fit it into a perfect outside, or in order to please someone else, which very often, or does it make more sense in our present-day lives? To rewrite those narratives, built in, opened the way for a new version of ourselves, one that is more in line with your values, dreams, and deepest desires. It's not just delete the one that was lived in it, but to give a new meaning to their experiences, and to turn what seemed to be a limitation into a source of learning. The secret lies in the courage to face their own truths, and to accept that it is not the only thing that we need to consider who we are in the final form. This is a change of perspective. It's like a release, a kind of reset in our mind, which allows us to see possibilities where before you could only see the obstacles. And in the process, the mindset of growth, it becomes our best ally. When we start to believe that we can change our actions, have a real impact on our journey, everything starts to change in a way that is more natural and sustainable way. It is not a matter of willpower or effort is fleeting, but an in-depth understanding of each and every decision that we make. It is a very important part in the construction of our own destiny. And as well aware of that, it gives us a sense of control and ownership, and that has often been lost in the course of time for the sake of limiting beliefs or a distorted view of who you really are. Suddenly, we realize that our history is not only written by the events that have happened to us, but also because of the interpretation that we give to these events. This is a revelation of the powerful, because it puts us in charge of the script. You can choose to rewrite the chapters, even the ones that seem to be the most difficult, painful, and with a story that is on the rise, and strengthen us. It's like an inner transformation which will impact you directly on the impact we have on the world around us, and influence our relationships, in our professional decisions, and even how we think about obstacles in day-to-day. And in doing so, we can see that the journey of self-discovery will be lighter, closer to the truth. Authenticity emerges as a natural consequence of a much deeper connection with who you truly are, without masks, or masks that we wear to hide our vulnerabilities. Such a genuine connection is what gives meaning to the process, since it allows us to live more fully and align our actions to our true nature. And at this point, the transformation is no longer something foreign, a change in the surface to make the experience of growing a full, one that echoes in every aspect of our lives. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the real change happens in how we deal with our own decisions. It is they who shape them on the way, which is to create opportunities and close the doors. Each and every decision, however small it may seem, it carries the potential to impact the whole of the journey. And all too often, we are paralyzed by fear of making a mistake, the question about what you choose to do this, or even to some extent by the resistance of the unknown. That's what's important for you to develop a mindset of courage, confidence, and trust in their own ability to adapt and learn from their mistakes. After all, no one is born knowing all the answers, and that's the beauty of life lies in the ability to learn, to evolve, step by step, even if it be uncertain or challenging. The truth hides behind all this is that our inner freedom is directly related to our willingness to embrace our imperfections and accept the fact that the path of growth, it is made up of ups and downs, victories and failures. When we look at our own obstacles as well as opportunities for transformation, and we have changed with the time that it would be something to latch on to become a gateway to self-discovery. This requires an attitude of curiosity, and you want to understand what each of these tasks has to teach, rather than to simply avoid or run away from them. Thus, in each decision-making difficult, it becomes a good opportunity to reaffirm who we are, in fact, to further strengthen our resilience, and to build a new narrative, one that is stronger, more authentic. This is the journey of the transformation. So too, in addition to the strategies and techniques of Skin Deep. It involves a change in mindset, a major revision of our beliefs, beliefs, and a provision of reinventing itself. And in doing so, we are beginning to see the impact that our choices are our own history, our own emotional health, and our ability to live with purpose. Each and every step that we take in this direction, it is a statement that we're the authors of our destiny, capable of rewriting our history, where we are, courage, truth, and authenticity. Be that as it may, it is important to note that this process does not happen at one time to the next. It is an everyday, made up of small actions and a constant willingness to get to know you better. And then, over the course of the journey, you can find out what is the greatest secret to a lasting change lies in the courage to face up to our own truth, to the question of what limits us, and to open up the space for in order to live more fully, more in tune with who you really are. After all, it is the real freedom comes from a decision to take on those who are of the truth and move forward, no matter what the world may think or expect of us. With it, each choice, an opportunity to tell of our experiences as a way to strengthen your journey and create a story that is worth living. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation happens exactly at the time we decide to look inside, to challenge our own beliefs, barriers, and set us free from the bondage that you often don't even realize that they hold. It is as if, in the course of a lifetime, accumulassimos layers of outside expectations, doubts, both internal and fears that it will become a sort of invisible shield, preventing us to see our essence is clear. And it is precisely at this point that the decision to be who you really are, if that makes the most of a good courage, because it takes courage to face up to the truth it hides behind a mask. A lot of times, we create so please you, or to get away from the judgment of others. This is a journey of self-discovery that is not linear or easy. There are moments of doubt and resistance to challenges to the deeper it seems to us to turn us away from the path. But at the same time, it's in these moments that we see the greatest opportunity for growth, because that is when our minds are put to the ultimate test. The mindset for those who really want freedom, that is, that they have the power to transform obstacles into lessons. They see the difficulties as stepping stones to progress closer to the truth. And as much as the impact of the decision may seem small at the time, it has a knock-on effect. For each choice that is aligned with our essence, it will enhancing your confidence, is shaping a new narrative is built, the more real and powerful. In essence, it's the journey. The transformation involves a series of revelations that take place behind the scenes in our minds. Come to the quiet, almost secret, they reveal aspects of ourself, the deepest and often forgotten or suppressed because of the fear of rejection or failure. To make room for a view of these findings, we allow ourselves to our true essence comes out, and that's a game changer. Why? When we connect to the truth that is hidden, we were able to look beyond appearances and to the expectations of external stakeholders. We begin to understand that freedom is not something that is out there, waiting for us, but an internal decision, a choice, a daily in place of authenticity, to be free of the beliefs that trap and create a new narrative of the life is based on truth. This change in mindset has a direct impact on the way decisions are made. We now address the question of whether our actions truly reflect who you are, or if you're still stuck on a version of us that has been built by external influences. And in the process of this reflection, we realized that a lot of times we turn away from our purpose for fear of looking different, or because they worry they will not be accepted. But in fact, it is precisely at this point that we must affirm our core with even more power, because that's where the processing is solidified and it becomes a real, tangible, and that it influences every aspect of our lives. It's all part of the journey. That is, at the same time, a plunge into the truth and the experience of self-awareness in a constant state of evolution. Every decision, every step of authenticity, this is a part of the construction of a new I have. The more freedom, the more closely aligned with our core values and what really matters to you. And in the course of its journey, it is only natural that arise from the revelations that challenge long-held beliefs that cause us to rethink the impact of our choices. These findings act as a mirror, reflecting not only who we are, but also who we are to embrace our true selves. That's the beauty of it all. You realize that when you take over who we are, in fact, that we started to create an all-new story, a story that tells of the courage, transformation, and freedom. The story doesn't depend on what the world thinks, it's what you feel and think. With this, every decision is an opportunity to strengthen our authenticity and to transform the obstacles on the stairs, and to build a life that truly makes sense for those who are, in fact. And even though the path is challenging and sure to be heading in the right direction is something that no one else can take for us, because it is in the freedom springs from within, and it is, above all, it's a daily choice to live with authenticity and to get rid of anything that attempts to limit and to embrace our true essence, and with courage and determination. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me." Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation doesn't happen with the large steps, or making time sensitive, but rather to the consistency of the small, everyday actions that, taken together, shape who we truly are. And there comes a point that a lot of people fail to pass unnoticed: the importance of understanding the impact that our choices have on our journey of self-discovery. This is not the only deciding something's a time and wait for it all to to change from one time to another. It's about creating a mindset of growth and pay attention to our own opinions, and to learn how to recognize the signs the universe sends us, even if they're disguised as obstacles or challenges. When we're talking about free, lots of times, we think of the great revolutions of the external changes that are changing all of our daily lives. But the truth is concealed. This is the real freedom springs from within, out of a conscious decision to break free from the shackles' invisible load, limiting beliefs, fears, deep-seated patterns that drag you back often and without notice. And it is precisely at this point that's our mentality. It makes all the difference. The way we understand the difficulties in the way, as we see in the games, all of this has a direct influence on our ability to move forward with courage. Over the course of my journey, I've noticed that a lot of us, we carry a kind of mental filter and a lens that distorts reality and prevent us from being able to see opportunities that are right in front of your very eyes. This lens is supplied with doubts, insecurities, and a software installation routine, auto-sabotagem that, without realizing it, we have strengthened our own making. So the first big reveal I want to share is that true transformation occurs only when we begin to wonder, are these lenses, and to challenge our own beliefs and the search for a new approach, more in line with who we really are and who we want to be, and in the process, and the courage to remain true to the very essence that is the key. Because sometimes it's easier to go with the flow, adapt to the expectations of others, or even if you hide behind a mask is comfortable for you. But those who really want to change, so genuine, know that you have the strength to stand firm in its authenticity, even if it means going against what the majority believes or hopes. Courage is what fuels our journey of transformation, which turns dreams into concrete actions, and little by little, you build a new life, more in tune with our deepest values. The other aspect is that we cannot afford to ignore the impact of our decisions on our own self-worth. Each and every choice we make, however small it may seem, it reinforces or challenges the perception of value. And then comes the connection with the mind, that a lot of times, it is our greatest friend or our biggest enemy. To learn how to listen to that inner voice, to pay attention, without being swayed by the criticism of the destructive or doubt as a result, it is a step that may accelerate or break in the transformation. From the moment that we begin to cultivate an inner dialogue, more compassionate, more supportive, we create a new narrative about who we are. And it is this narrative, in turn, has a direct influence on our ability to make decisions, to act with purpose, and to resist the temptation to give up in the face of obstacles. Because at the end, the greatest impact of this journey of transformation is the change of mindset, change of how we view ourselves and the world around us. When we are able to align these to the perception of the truth to take care of it, all starts to make sense, even if that path continues to be a challenging one. Now, I want you to go deeper in the subject, while exploring how those behind the scenes, invisible and often hidden from our conscious awareness, they may be undermining your goals or more ambitious. Because, in spite of all of this is a willingness to change, there are internal forces that pull us toward the back, which serves as a self-defense system, built up over the years to protect ourselves from the pain, failures, or disappointments. But, in practice, these mechanisms, they end up preventing us from moving forward to the full, explore our full potential. And one of the biggest revelations I've found is that the key is to understand these mechanisms and to learn to work with them rather than against them or deny them. This is a work of self-discovery, acceptance, and inner transformation. The more we understand our own limitations, and the more we can develop strategies to overcome them, not to feel defeated or arrested for it. This awareness gives us the freedom to choose from with new answers, new attitudes, and thus to build up a new chapter in its history, more in line with what you really want. Over the course of a journey of self-discovery, I realized that it also involves a certain degree of patience. After all, far-reaching changes take time and require persistence, and sometimes a dose of resistance is felt. But at the same time, it is precisely because of this process, which shows the strength of it is true, why in the face of our own shadows, we learn how to love ourselves more, to understand that we are a work in constant flux, and every step, however small it may seem, it is a victory that brings us closer to a more authentic to ourselves. And at that point, it becomes clear that the journey of transformation is not a linear path, nor a ready-made recipe. Each and every one of us has their own little nuances of your specific lessons and their internal battles that need to be overcome. And it is precisely this diversity that makes it such a rich and all-encompassing. Because when we look back, we realize that each and every challenge faced, every doubt to overcome, and it is a part of a great revelation. That is, the freedom, in fact, comes from within, from a decision-making every day to be true to yourself, to be free from the shackles and invisible that prevent us from flying. And in the end, it all connects with a single powerful truth, our ability to make informed choices, to transform beliefs, and in embracing our inner selves and with courage. This is a real journey of transformation, and an adventure that starts when you decide to look into it, with integrity and with hope. Ready to find out who has the most impact is not about what happens to those around us, but how we choose to interpret and act on the basis of our deepest truth. And then, at at that moment, the connection with the main purpose, if it showing that true freedom is, above all, it's a decision that we make every day, with love, courage, and determination. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the way to true freedom is not something that just happens all of a sudden, not even by accident. It is a built-in, day in and day out, with little choices that, added together, to create a powerful transformation in our way of thinking and our perception of the world. Many times, when we are so immersed in the routine, which by this means the external and the pressure to please others, that we forget to look inside for the things that really keeps us going, for something that is beating in your heart. And it is precisely at this point that the real change happens. When we begin to question our own decisions, our own limiting beliefs, and recognize the power that already exists inside of us, it's a new horizon appears. The transformation happens at the moment when we let go of the idea that the external controller sets the website or for our success. It is a process of deconstruction, to break free of the box, which often do not realize that we have. These restraints may be of the expectations of others, the standards imposed by society, or even an internal narrative that he would have us believe that we don't have enough of it. But if you notice in this narrative, we can rewrite it, the words that fuel our courage, our hope, and our authenticity. It is at this point that a growth mindset is strengthened, and the possibilities seem to be more approachable, more real. And in the process of this change in its internal structure, we are invited to reflect on the impact of our choices on our lives and the lives of those around us. Every action, every thought, and it has a domino effect that reverberates in addition to our own world. When we act with intention, self-love, and of a more wide-ranging view of what really matters to you, you start to realize that freedom is not something external, something that someone else can take for us, but it is a conquest of the inner and a conscious decision to keep the core intact, even in the face of adversity. This understanding gives us an immense power because it frees us from the fear of making mistakes, fear of failure, and it puts us at the center of our growth. At the same time, this is a journey of self-discovery that reveals the hidden truth that is too often preferred to ignore. We have found that the greatest battle is not outside, but within us, in our minds, in our hearts. And the more you immerse ourselves in the universe is built, the more we realize that freedom is a choice daily to align our actions with our deepest values. It is a commitment every day, and for a year of courage and self-love that pushes us forward even when the road seems uncertain. After all, it is the right of a final destination, but a way of living, of thinking, of feeling. This is all the things that it allows us to be who we really are, without the mask, without the mask, without the mask. And, in the process of self-transformation, a look behind the scenes of our very own story too are revealed to be so amazing. We have found that many of the limitations that we have are not our own, but are inherited, imposed on them by a society that often values the look of the essence. And then, to the question of those truths that are hidden, you can create a new narrative, a story of which we are the protagonists of our own freedom. It is an exercise in courage, which requires determination, but you are rewarded with a sense of wholeness and authenticity. When one is freed from the shackles of the past, out of the belief that, in the limit, we opened up the space for a new version of ourselves, the more in tune with our dreams and our deepest desires. And if you think about all of this, I realize that this journey is not only about achieving a state of peace or of happiness in a given moment, but rather a revolution on the inside, a change of mentality that affects all areas of our lives, from relationships to the professional decisions, going by the way you face the challenges of everyday life. This transformation is about having the courage, yes, and sometimes we even resistance because of a break with old patterns. It can breed insecurity and fear, but at the same time, it gives us an opportunity to be more authentic, more freedom to explore our own talents, our passions, and our deepest values. And then, in a movement of self-discovery, every step takes us closer to our true nature, the one that was always there, waiting to be rescued. So, when you think about the release, it is clear that the decision to continue on this path of change, it is something that arises from within, out of a genuine desire to live a more fulfilling and genuine. It is a choice we make every day, even though at times, fear or doubt to try to pull us back. Because deep down, we know that the greatest freedom is the courage to be true to ourselves, for us to detach from everything that limits us or prevent us from growing. And if you make this choice, we have begun to realize that the impact is higher than we might have previously thought, and that our journey of self-discovery reverberates in the lives of others and inspire them to strive for their own freedom. And so, the cycle of transformation, it becomes more and more stronger, more alive, more real. In order for this change to happen on a consistent basis, it is necessary, above all, to cultivate a mindset of the ever-expanding, opening up to new opportunities, and acceptance of what we cannot control. It is an exercise in self-discovery, forgiveness, compassion for oneself and others. When we do that, everything changed. The limitations of that before seem to be insurmountable lose their power, because they have discovered that they are, many times, in our heads, on our way to interpret reality. And then, when we had moved to this interpretation, interpretation, we have changed all around us. This is a real journey of transformation, a journey that begins on the inside, but at the same time, the impact on the world, the deep and long-lasting. And, while this discussion takes place, makes me think of how the revelation that we do it for ourselves, it can open doors for you that before seemed to be closed. The courage to face our own truths that are hidden from us in the next level of freedom in that, until now, seemed to be out of reach. It is a unique experience that requires patience, love, and determination, but you are rewarded with a sense of fullness, which cannot be put into words. Because in the end, it all comes down to the decision to be true to yourself, to embrace your true essence, and to live in accordance with it. And, in it, we realize that freedom is not an end, but an ongoing journey of discovery, growth, and connection with the things that really matter. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at this point that a lot of people get lost in the search for authenticity. They do not believe that, just to get rid of the expectations of the outside, they will have reached a state of bliss. But the truth is, hidden behind the illusion is that the journey of being true to yourself is, in fact, it's a constant process of transformation. It's like a sculpture that just won't die of being carved out, where every decision, every reflection, every confrontation, the inner is shaping who we truly are. And this wrap requires, above all, the courage to face your own shadows, to see the things that you often prefer to hide in. Freedom in this sense, it is not revealed all at once, not as a final destination, which they reach after a big win. It is an everyday, made up of small choices that, added together, to create a narrative of self-discovery and self-acceptance. Every time we choose to be yourself, even if it means to face the embarrassment or rejection, we are powering through this journey of transformation. And at the same time, we realize that this freedom also comes a responsibility to be silent, to keep the loyalty of who we really are, even in the face of external pressures that try to make us push you back into compliance. In this connection, with its own essence, it is a search that uncovers the deeper layers of our personal history, which is often hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs. These are the factors, which, very often, to create a truly smokescreen, preventing you from seeing clearly what it is we really want or who you really are. And this is where it comes to the importance of an open-minded and able to question everything, including what they believe to be absolute truths. His question is the one that allows you to break the old patterns and finding new ways, new paths, the authenticity of which, up to then, they were hidden in the shadows of the unconscious mind. However, this is a journey of self-discovery that is not linear. It is the moments of conflict, doubt, intense, of gains and losses, which seem to be contradictory, but which in fact is a part of the process of growing up. Every challenge, every decision is difficult and serves as a mirror that reflects how much you're willing to go further out of your comfort zone. There is no magic formula for the growth of only a provision, to learn, to let go, start over, and above all, trust in your own journey, even when everything seems to be up in the air. It's like a mosaic that reveals itself slowly, one piece at a time, to the extent that we are going to the understanding of the deeper meaning of our own history. In addition to this, the search for authenticity has also led to a greater connection with and the impact we can have on the world around us. When we are in alignment with our truth, our actions receive a different strength, a purpose that inspires us, and makes it not only for ourselves but also for people around us. And in it, we see that the journey to self-acceptance is, in fact, a bridge, a connection, that is truer with each other, and a more in-depth understanding of what our choices have the power to influence people's lives as well as our own history. This understanding reinforces the commitment to living in accordance with what really matters to you, what beats in my heart, stripped of their masks and costumes. At the same time, the connection with your own soul leads us to question the truths that we have been imposed upon in the course of a lifetime, revealing the often hidden reality behind the facade of social and tries to fit in the mold of pre-established. And then, when you discover those hidden truths, we can gain clarity about our own motives and our deepest desires and what truly makes us feel alive. It is at this point that the transformation is increasing, as we see more clearly that, in fact, have to be left behind, and the one that should be cultivated in order for our authenticity to the flowers of the way full. Every step in that direction is a statement that is silent, that we are willing to live a life that is more aligned closer to the truth, the more our own. In the end, this is a journey of self-discovery, teaching us that freedom is not a definitive conquest, but a state of mind that lives on the small wins every day. It requires constant attention, the courage to reinvent yourself, and a willingness to open yourself up to the unknown. And in doing so, we find that the most lasting impact that we can make is the one that comes from a life lived in truth and with a purpose, and with love to the very core. After all, when you delve deeper and deeper in the inner universe, we have discovered that the real freedom is to accept who you are, with all our imperfections, and thus, to transform the latter into a force that drives us forward, always in the direction of our own evolution. And, in this move, and every decision becomes an opportunity for you to tell such a deep connection with our inner journey. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at at this point that a lot of people get lost on their journey of transformation. The acceptance that seems to be so simple in theory, but it reveals one of the greatest battles of our day-to-day. After all, how can we truly embrace our imperfections are not overcome by a sense of failure or disappointment? The answer lies in the understanding that the latter is not an end, but an ongoing, daily practice of looking inward with honesty and courage. This practice requires us to face the things that a lot of times we would prefer to conceal: our own doubts, fears, insecurities, and even with the flaws that we judge the most harshly. It is in this discussion that the real power begins to reveal herself, because when you accept who you are, we fight against ourselves, and we work with our own limitations and transform them into opportunities for growth. This is a change of mindset, which some might call the emotional maturity. This is one of the keys to the most powerful for you to unlock our true potential. It requires that we free ourselves from the expectations of the external and of the opinions of others. They have been able to build a genuine relationship with our inner selves. When we compare ourselves and we start to make the most of what is unique in each and every one of us, we can begin to understand our imperfections. They also carry an intrinsic beauty. They are all part of the process of the evolution of our education, of our history, and by acknowledging it, we make room for it in the autocomplexion to flourish, creating a strong foundation so that we can make better clarity and courage. At the same time, such a decision is to accept who we are, leads us to reflect on the impact of the choices we make in our journey. Every decision we make, however small it may seem, it is an expression of our inner connection. It's as if you're writing a story that reveals who you really are, even if at times this narrative is marked by doubt and uncertainty. And it is precisely at this point that the authenticity, and if it makes it to our most powerful ally. When you have decided to take action in line with our deepest values, we reaffirm the truth hidden, and taking an important step towards the transformation is real. This is a journey of discovery, constance, where each and every small victory, the inner becomes the foundation for the challenges of the outdoors. We also know that this journey does not happen in a linear fashion. Often, a step forward is followed by a step back for a moment, to doubt or even self-delusion. And that's okay. The important thing is to be on the lookout for the one that is the most important thing to learn, that each and every experience has been accomplished. As we come to realize that growth is the construction of a continuous, we can begin to appreciate the process of recognizing that every step you take, no matter how difficult it may be, it brings us closer to our best. And in it, we learned how to deal with the truth hidden. They often reject it. That we are in a state of constant transformation, which we are building, and that's the beauty of it all. For all of this to make it more clear, it's vital to create a hook for reflection and self-discovery. The moments of silence, writing, reading, meditation, or even a conversation honest with someone you trust can help you find out this is the deepest layer of our being. In doing so, we cultivate a mindset of self-transformation, where they learn to accept, without judgment, it becomes a tool of liberation. This is the interior freedom is manifested in the way in which we react to the difficulties in our ability to keep calm in the face of chaos, and the clarity with which we make decisions that truly reflect who you are to the truth. It's a great message, one that happens behind the scenes in our minds and hearts, and strengthened impact on all of our way of life. And then, when you think of all this, it becomes clear that the real transformation comes from a conscious acceptance and a decision on the daily moving, even if slowly. Every choice, every reflection, every moment of connecting more deeply with your own interior is like a seed that, with time, it blooms into something else. It is in this continuous journey of self-discovery and authenticity, in that it reveals the true, hidden. They are able to reinvent ourselves, always, no matter where we are in life. This is one of the biggest revelations of what we can do for ourselves, that the real change has to come from inside it, and that it is a choice that we make in each moment. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that, in essence, that the journey of transformation is not only about changes to the surface or a quick shortcuts. It involves a more in-depth understanding of what really inspires us, what keeps us from moving forward, and above all, of how we can use these findings to create a narrative that is different for each of our lives. Many of the times, we are stuck in patterns of behavior that seem to be automatic, as if our thoughts and our decisions to be programmed for the kind of script that is invisible, a legacy of a past experience, the limiting beliefs, or even in a culture that urges us to wrap up in a way that you don't always match up with who you really are or want to be. It is at this point that it goes to the whole inner being, that it is capable of transforming not just what we do, but above all, those who are at the bottom. The transformation, in this sense, it is about having the courage to look within, to confront the truths they often prefer to hide in, and to know that our daily decisions, whether they are small or large, these are the keys that will open or close the doors to our growth. Every choice, every thought, every action is a part which has contributed to a seamless construction for a new me. When we see this, we begin to realize that change is not something that is foreign to you, something that comes from the outside to the inside, but the result of this journey of inner self-knowledge. It is as if it were a kind of alchemy, the the emotional, where you will get all the things that seem to be heavy, which was limited, or that it would make us doubt ourselves, and turn on the power, clarity, and purpose. And it is precisely at this point that the story of the life of each and every one, it becomes a story of possibilities. Because in the real world, this understanding leads to a conscious decision to decide every day what we are capable of rewriting our history, that we are not prisoners of the past or of the external environment, but the authors of their own destiny. This is the mindset that we can reinvent ourselves at any time. It is freeing, as it eliminates the idea that you have to wait for circumstances to be perfect, or for certain losses that define our career decision. Quite to the contrary, they are all part of the process, are the behind the scenes of a heartwarming story that only comes into its own when we have the courage to move forward even in the face of doubt or difficulty. From this perspective, it all takes on a new meaning. Every obstacle is an opportunity to learn. Every failure is a valuable lesson in preparation for the next step. And along the way, we found out that the authenticity of fuel is the most powerful in the transformation. When we allow ourselves to be who we truly are, without masks, without pretense, we can begin to attract the things that really resonates with our inner selves. And it is this deep connection to our true self is the one that gives meaning to the journey, because they align with our actions, our truths. We create a life that reflects who we really are, not just shaped by the expectations of others or by searching for your approval. The truth is hidden, that a lot of the times it is hidden beneath the layers of insecurities or a fear of judgment, is that this is a decision and a daily choice that we make from time to time. There isn't a magic formula or a secret guarded. The secret lies in our willingness to face up to the truth and accept our vulnerability, and to use this understanding as a starting point for a new story. Thus, in each step, however small it may seem, contributes to the construction of a story more in line with our core values, our dreams, our very essence, the most pure. And when you do that, you start to realize that the transformation is not a destination, but a continuous journey, and a dance-off between who we were, who we are, and who we can become. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because when you understand this dynamic, we have begun to realize that the real revolution happens in the silence of the countryside, where the decisions of the most significant decisions are taken without fanfare, many times without our realization. It is in this space of self-discovery, which we have created to bridge the gap between what we are and what we will become tomorrow. And it is the bridge that will lead you to a deeper understanding of the impact of the choices we make reverberates not only in our own lives, but also for those around us, maintaining a chain of processing that goes beyond our own horizons. When you dive in deep, and we believe that's true, freedom is the ability to choose who we want to be, regardless of external circumstances, and such a choice, it is the greatest act of courage to be that we can be. This is the essence of the journey to authenticity, and of change and the impact on the fund we aim to achieve. If you've read this far, I want to thank you for taking the time for this discussion. It's always nice to know that someone else is interested in this subject, so important that it invites us to think about who we are and how we can live more fully. If you found this content useful or brought a sense of clarity, let your like. It helps to strengthen the connection that you have created in the course of the video, and it shows that this kind of talk makes sense to you. If this message has touched some of your comments here on Earth, I'm with you till the end, or a sentence to show that you have identified. Thus, we are able to create an exchange is still closer to the truth and awe-inspiring. In addition to this, if you subscribe to the channel, it's a way of keeping track of these meetings. We are seeking to help you on your journey of growth, as it is here that the focus is always to impart the value of way, lightweight, and natural. Finally, I would like to invite you to keep up with me. There's a video right here on the side, which complements this subject, talking about how to put into practice them in life, and the strengthening of its authenticity. Click there, and it remains with me to this step of the journey. After all, it is the path of self-discovery is a continuous one, and I'm here to walk with you. Until the next video, and remember, freedom is the courage to be who you truly want to be.